where he's worshiping the devil and drinking blood and all that Satan freak stuff. And then he gets in front of the television cameras and starts talking about God.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes you sick.
I was amazed at how often that devil's horn thing was flashed during the inauguration.
Yeah, and it was constant, and they tried to say that it was the signal for Texas College, but it was proved wrong because the one in the Texas extends the thumb and not the fingers.
Ah.
Because that's their goat's head signal for Texas A&M. Like, who would care about a college in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
You know, give me a break. All these college people were coming to his defense, but then you look at the pictures, he was extending his index and his pinky, not his thumb. It's the thumb that indicates that college thing.
Mm-hmm.
The goats of Menendez or whatever. I mean, yeah. And they tried to smooth it over in the media. You know, New Zealand people were freaking out and protesting, and they tried to smooth it over, and, you know, it had nothing to do with college, because Clinton's been doing it for years. We've got pictures of him doing it. We've got pictures of Laura Bush. We've got pictures of Prince William. And pretty much all the leaders. We've got pictures of them doing that go to Mendez signal. And that's a common signal among everybody in the Brotherhood to identify themselves. Let everybody else know they're in the Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm. There was an interesting thing on one of the sites this week about people relocating either to New Zealand or, in one particular case, to Tasmania.
Yeah.
Way, way down under.
I wouldn't want to be on an island.
No.
And if you've looked at Australia lately on the earthquake maps, they're just getting pounded. It's like our West Coast.
Oh, yes.
Australia is just getting pounded. And, you know, I know a lot of people saying they're heading to Canada, and I can't for the life of me figure out why they would head to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Because Canada's worse than the United States right now.
It is. The only thing they've got going for them is a lower population density.
Well, everything that the New World Order wants to implement in their agenda, they're doing in Canada first. And, you know, that's really, you want to find out what's going on in the New World Order, talk to the Canadians.
Yes.
You know, and they'll tell you that everything, and it's all going to trickle down here to the United States. It is slowly. Of course, everything, the evil seems to come from the northwest tip where, you know, they all kind of hang out in Washington. And everything's trickling from there over to the east. Seems like all the real dredge policies start out there first. And, you know, so I can't understand why anybody would be heading to Canada. I would find a nice hill or a mountain in the Midwest of the United States somewhere, or one of the Bible Belt states.
Oh, yes.
You know, I saw a map. My mom's showing me a map of somebody that had a vision of how the United States was going to be divided with all these, you know, floodings and you know, the Missouri River splitting the United States in half, and the East Coast coming in and the West Coast coming in. And the safest states were the Bible Belt states. You know, I mean, Nebraska wasn't even touched. West Virginia's not touched. Ohio's barely touched. Pennsylvania's not touched. Oklahoma was safe. All of Florida's gone. That from that point of that end of the coast all the way up to Atlanta is all water. Arizona, a lot of Arizona is going to be oceanfront property. And, you know, we've been laughing about that for years, but if you look through this map, you're going to be able to get oceanfront property in Arizona.
Also, Nebraska and Kansas are so lightly populated, and they're, you know, the soil is good. A lot of people have gone to Missouri and northern Arkansas, but there's a lot of seismic activity going on right now.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's where I was heading. I was thinking. I know what you're talking. and there is a lot of assaults, air assaults with the chemtrails and the HAARP clouds.
Yeah.
A lot of assaulting going on in that whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And you have to look at that Mississippi River and wonder how far it's going to come in. Nobody really knows how, you know, what's going to, you know, everyone knows the Mississippi River is going to expand and it's just going to split the whole country in half. But it seems like the mountain ranges will be fine, but they're really assaulting them. People who live in those areas now are really getting pelted. So, yeah, you got to wonder what's safe. Sometimes I think I'm just safe staying here, but I don't think you're going to be safe in any kind of populations living in populated areas.
And access to good, clean water is important, too.
Yeah.
And that's getting harder and harder to get. There's so much of the groundwater's been defiled.
Yeah. I was looking at those water purifiers. They're actually backpacks that could do 2 or 3 gallons a day or whatever. You know, just like for emergency water or whatever. And those things are even expensive. You're looking at $1,500.
Yes.
You know, you're talking some outrageous money just for water purification. So, you know, I hope the Lord, you know, he'll prepare. Because, you know, I don't know if we're just stocking up for everybody else. That would be a nice case.
That would be very nice.
You know, because I've always believed that, you know, the first fruits rapture will take place right around the time the Antichrist makes his arrival. But we don't know how bad it's going to get before that even happens. We don't know how bad it's going to get.
No. No. You know, during World War II, there were areas of the most terrible destruction and suffering. And in many cases, just a few miles away, there were areas that were relatively untouched.
Yeah.
People went about their lives with very little interference. And where this place or that place could be was quite difficult to ascertain. But even during that time, generally the mountains were, and the country were much better places to be. Yeah.
Well, and everybody thinks the Midwest is going to be safe because of George Washington's vision. I can't remember what my thoughts were about that vision. I haven't posted somewhere. I tore that thing apart.
I've seen that too, and you don't put much stock in the George Washington vision.
It's a different road, and I have to dig that out for the next show. It's a different road. It's not prophetically lined up, no.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. It didn't seem quite right.
It's not prophetically lined up because the Lord destroys Babylon in an hour.
Yes.
And so, you know, there's no victory of the migrants, the remnant left in the USA. It's all going to be destroyed. So, yeah, it didn't line up. But it has, you know, it has its points to it. Maybe we can actually do something to kick out the freaks before it's destroyed, but we know it's destroyed because of their martyrdom of God's people here. And so we know multi-millions, I mean, they're fully prepared to eliminate 60 million Christians and patriots and just general mayhem pests who won't go along with the New World Order. You know, 60 million people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of judgment and anger from the Lord on this country for doing that.
Yes.
You know, it's His judgment, His justice on them for killing us off. And so we're all, you know, when you get into that kind of a study, you think that, you know, it's going to be all gloom and doom and you're kind of sad because your country's destroyed. But when you look at it, the Christians are cheering. The people in heaven are cheering. That's how bad it's going to get. You know, and so it's not something to be afraid of and to be sad about. We're going to be cheering the Lord's judgment on this country when it comes. Most of us will be in heaven. You know, you look at the souls under the altar that were martyred. They're incountable. Millions. So that's pretty much the future of America, not some kind of, you know, victorious war against the freaks and winning. You know, so, yeah, his vision didn't really line up.
I agree with you. It just didn't seem right to me either. There are a lot of people having prophetic dreams these days, though.
Oh, I know. I know. And they don't, you know, you really use discernment.
Yes.
On these foreign boys, these dream boards that the Masera crowd's having a field day with. You know, the Lord never contradicts Himself.
No.
And so you have to keep that in mind when you're reading somebody's material. Because He's not talking about a time of peace and prosperity coming. He's warning His people of His judgment coming. And I don't know how many times I'll read these prophecies of how peace time's coming, or how He's building His army and Joel's army and, you know, the third wave beast stuff.